Breaking news as we learn that Maine's top election official has ejected former President Donald Trump from the state's ballot, making that decision yesterday, declaring him ineligible to serve as a president because of his role in the January 6, 2021 protest at Congress. More on this in just a moment. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley responding yesterday to her Wednesday evening comments at a New Hampshire town hall where she failed to mention slavery as the reason for the Civil War, with some saying this could be a pivotal moment in the Haley campaign. The Biden administration seems to have a new name for illegals flooding across our southern border as we continue to watch a caravan of illegals making their way to our southern border, with estimates numbering thousands of people, potentially up to as many as 15,000 from Central and South America. Secretary of State Antony Blinken introduces a new description of illegals. You're going to want to wait around and hear this one. Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Breaking news as we learned last night, the ruling by Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, a Democrat, of course, is going to remove President Donald Trump from her state's ballot and is certain to inflame a roaring national debate already over whether the Republican presidential frontrunner should be allowed to hold power again. The decision makes Maine the second state in 2 weeks to qualify or disqualify Trump's candidacy due to the constitutional bar on office holders who supported or engaged in insurrection or rebellion. Now, again, keep in mind, Donald Trump has not been charged with insurrection, but some of these state officials claiming that January the 6th, and he encouraged that, and that makes him guilty of participating in an insurrection. Last week, the Colorado Supreme Court, as you know, barred Trump from the state's Republican primary ballot under a similar interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Bellows' decision yesterday increases the pressure on the U.S. Supreme Court to step in and ultimately decide Donald Trump's fate, as the Colorado GOP petitioned the justices this week to do so. Unlike the Colorado ruling, though, this one comes from an individual office holder affiliated with the Democratic Party. And Maine, unlike Colorado, has been a presidential battleground in recent years. Under an unusual state law, it cast one of his electoral college votes for Trump in both 2016 and again in 2020. Trump was quick to attack the decision, with an aide calling it partisan election interference. Politico writes, but his removal from the ballot in 2 states remains a stark illustration of Donald Trump's deep legal and political vulnerabilities. Politico went on to talk about Bellows, who made the call in Maine because state law requires the secretary to adjudicate ballot challenges to candidates' eligibility. Defending her decision, Bellows wrote, "I am mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment." She went on to say, "I am also mindful, however, that no presidential candidate has ever before engaged in insurrection." The decision will also assuredly be appealed by Trump, but by becoming the second state to kick Trump off of the ballot, it marks a major milestone for the effort by activists to bar Trump from seeking the Oval Office again. If they can't beat him at the polling places, if they can't beat him in the election, they're going to try to keep him from ever even being part of the election. Remember, though, and what's not being talked about a lot is that the Michigan State Supreme Court this week also ruled in Trump's favor. So it's not a total loss for Team Trump this week, but it does mark the beginning of chaos as the various states' courts try to work through this and make a decision. We're going to see more states doing this. We're going to see more Secretary of States and any state officials who have the authority in their particular state try to take this same action. In a statement, Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung attacked Bellows as a former ACLU attorney, a virulent leftist, and a hyper-partisan Biden-supporting Democrat, he said. He also said the campaign will quickly file a legal objection in state court to prevent this atrocious decision in Maine from taking effect. In other presidential campaign news, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley responding to her Wednesday evening comments at a New Hampshire town hall where she failed to mention slavery as the reason for the Civil War. Here's what happened, if you haven't heard already. When asked by an audience member what the cause of the war was, Haley responded, quote, "It was basically how government was going to run the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do," according to several videos of the exchange. The audience got real quiet for a moment. If you've watched this, if you haven't, you should try to find it, because everyone in the room's kind of looking at Haley as she proposed the same question back to the audience member, who responded, "Well, I'm not running for president, you are." Here's the exchange between Haley and someone whom you can't see in the video asking the question.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president. I wanted to see your opinion on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are. And I will always stand by the fact that I think government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. Government doesn't need to tell you how to live your life. They don't need to tell you what you can and can't do. They don't need to be a part of your life. They need to make sure that you have freedom. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
And there's where she just moves on. Now, there was considerable blowback across social media for failing to mention slavery in her answer. Haley clarified during an appearance on a New Hampshire radio show. This was yesterday, saying that she was talking about what the war means to us today.
Well, two things on this, Jack. I mean, of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it. What I was saying was, what does it mean to us today? What it means to us today is about freedom. That's what that was all about. It was about individual freedom. It was about economic freedom. It was about individual rights. Our goal is to make sure, no, we never go back to the stain of slavery, but what's the lesson in all of that?
Former White House Director of Communications Jennifer Palmieri on The Morning Joe on MSNBC says this could be a pivotal moment for the Haley campaign.
It's breathtaking. I mean, I had read the transcript, but I had not actually seen it. And it is just breathtaking when she says, "What do you want me to say about slavery?" I mean, that is her campaign in one question, right? It is like, who do you want me to be right now who do I need to morph into in order to never take Trump on, but be acceptable enough to sort of the MAGA majority that should something happen outside of my control, because she's not doing anything to actually beat Trump, I could be the person that inherits everyone else's votes. And this could be, so, this is in New Hampshire, right? That New Hampshire voters, they want you to be courageous. They like independent thinkers. They want you to speak frankly. This could, so I think that it could hurt her. And, if DeSantis's operation is effective, they should be doing more to lift it up and make it a thing. But it also could have been a really big moment for her because she came on the national scene by being the Republican governor who took down or was part of taking down the Confederate flag over the South Carolina state legislature after the terrible race-based shooting in Charleston at the AME church there in 2015. And that is when we, first learned of Nikki Haley. This could have been a great moment for her to say, like, I come from the South. This is what we've learned. And instead, it is this panic. What do you want me to say about slavery?
Do you agree with Palmieri that this was a missed opportunity for Nikki Haley? Does this hurt Nikki Haley? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign has since taken aim at Haley over her comments in a number of different posts on X, with Press Secretary Brian Griffin arguing she stepped in a giant mess of her own making. Conservative businessman Vivek Ramaswamy also slammed Haley on social media for her remarks, calling her a perfect puppet for the corrupt establishment. Haley's comments come just weeks away from voting in the key early primary state of New Hampshire, where she's been spending a lot of time. She received the endorsement of New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. The Real Clear Politics average for a 2024 Republican primary in the first in the nation state, based on polling conducted between December 7th and December 19th, indicates Haley has 24.8% support behind former President Donald Trump with 46.3%. So, again, does this hurt Nikki Haley? Politico thinks so. Headlined by Braxton Booker, she's toast. Republicans of color disappointed by Haley's slavery misstep. The article reads, Republicans of color said on Thursday they were dismayed by Nikki Haley's initial refusal to say that slavery was the cause of the Civil War. It wasn't just an offensive historical omission, they argued, but a tactical blunder too. Rena Shah, a Republican strategist based in Washington, in a text to Politico, wrote, she easily could have communicated better in that moment, but chose to use a tired old political stump tactic by tossing the same question back to the guy who asked. What do I see her as having left out? The word slavery, because she was scared to talk about anything regarding our nation's complicated history, Ms. Shah writes. I think by acknowledging slavery, she felt she might be alienating Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis voters. Black Republicans like Shermichael Singleton, who has worked on previous Republican presidential campaigns, including Mitt Romney and Ben Carson, remain disenchanted as well. Singleton said that he believed Haley was right that her questioner was a plant, but he didn't think that this was an excuse for fumbling the answer. He said she should have been able to answer the damn question and move on, quote. He added that her comments likely alienated moderate Republicans and swing voters she desperately needed to mount a successful challenge for the nomination. Singleton said she had a chance to be competitive even though she was always likely to lose the nomination. However, that's over now, he said. Not all Republicans of color who spoke to Politico thought the moment was a trip-up for Haley. Armstrong Williams called the episode a teachable moment. Williams, who is a black journalist, conservative talk show host, and by the way, Armstrong and I worked together way back when. We both interned together in U.S. Senator Strom Thurmond's office one summer while we both were in college. Armstrong said there were so many other issues that caused the Civil War, whether it be states' rights, the role of our federal government at the time, the economy, Americans at the time, felt was in shambles. But what she has to realize is that all these issues, no matter what they were inextricably bound to the institution of slavery. She cannot separate slavery from any of these issues, no matter how many she mentions. Williams added he didn't think the episode would torpedo her campaign. He said no, nor should it. Listen, Nikki Haley is not a racist. She's not a bigot. She's a politician, he said. And sometimes politicians do what politicians do, and they pay the price for it. And she paid the price for not being the person of courage and having the moral clarity to speak the truth. For Republicans of color, the Haley maelstrom was frustrating in part because she's not the first GOP candidate who's been tripped up by the issue of slavery, Politico writes. Back in August, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis found himself in the crosshairs of fellow Republicans of color after his state issued revised guidelines requiring teachers to instruct some school-age children that slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. DeSantis got considerable pushback at the time. Among those, Representative Byron Donalds, a Republican from Florida, took issue with the instructions, saying that the personal benefit characterization was wrong and needs to be adjusted. The DeSantis campaign dug in at the time, saying Donalds, who of course is also a black conservative, was parroting talking points of Vice President Kamala Harris. It led to a slew of black Republicans coming to Donald's defense and openly questioning the viability of the DeSantis campaign. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639 is the Truth text line. I'd love to get your feedback on this. You think this will hurt Nikki Haley? Does this slow down the momentum that she has led us to believe she has going into New Hampshire in just a few weeks? Love to hear what you think about that. You can leave me a quick voice message as well at 864-477-5639. Emails are welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. The Biden administration seems to have a new name for illegals flooding across the southern border. As we continue to watch this caravan of illegals making their way to our border, with estimates numbering in the thousands of people from Central and South America, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and a senior U.S. delegation are meeting with Mexican officials as we speak to discuss the current illegal surge at the U.S.-Mexico border. On the social media platform X, Blinken said both sides discuss ways to discuss the irregular migration. You get that? Irregular migration is how he's describing it now. What exactly is irregular migration? Blinken wrote, "The U.S.-Mexico partnership is crucial to prosperity and security in our countries and throughout the Americas. Good to discuss these issues and our shared efforts to reduce irregular migration with the president in Mexico City today." Irregular migration. they come up. So I bet they paid someone a lot of money to come up with that description. You think? Blinken's description of irregular migration matches other language that's been used by the State Department, but appears to clash with the messaging from President Biden and the White House. Last week, the State Department first announced Blinken would be traveling to Mexico with Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas and White House Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood-Randall to discuss unprecedented irregular migration, as well as identifying ways Mexico and the United States will address border security challenges. So initially it was unprecedented irregular migration. Now he's reduced it down to irregular migration. However, the White House has downplayed, of course, the record high levels of immigration by describing current figures, as many as 10,000 illegals arrested daily at the southwest border. Some, September, October, had over 11, almost 12,000 at times. The White House is calling it a seasonal surge. Karine Jean-Pierre was questioned about this. And look, I guess she just means that, well, a seasonal surge, maybe they're coming here for Christmas. Maybe they're searching for Santa. I mean, there were 242,418 illegal encounters at the southern border in November, the highest November on record and the third highest month ever. And when asked about the November figure, Karine Jean-Pierre said that the increases in numbers are not unusual.
Seeing here at the border, the migration flow, increased migration flow, certainly it ebbs and flows, and we're at a time of the year where we're seeing more at the border, and it's not unusual. This is an immigration system that has been broken for decades, and the president has taken this very seriously to try to do more.
Yep, he's taking it very seriously. That's her common answer, is that the president is taking this very seriously. During the 4-day Christmas weekend, According to records, there were more than 35,000 illegal encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border, and since December the 1st, there have been over 250,000 encounters. December could break the monthly record for encounters set in September, which was 269,735. We just have to wait through tomorrow and see what the final numbers are. Earlier this week, the caravan passed by Mexico's Maine inland immigration inspection point and was seen traveling north. Again, a very flamboyant leader of this group claiming that it could grow to as many as 15,000. We'll see. The caravan started out on Christmas Eve from the city of Tapaluca near the border of Guatemala, with many migrants spending Christmas sleeping outside. The group reportedly mostly included adults, single adults, but had some families. And they're all eager to reach the U.S. border, as you can imagine. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. What was the term again that they used? Irregular migration. That's what they're calling it now, irregular migration. Let's remember that. Meanwhile, a coalition of liberal mayors has renewed their calls for the federal government and Joe Biden to declare a federal emergency over the ongoing illegal crisis, this irregular migration, that has reached their cities and left them overwhelmed and out of capacity to shelter further arrivals. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, and Denver Mayor Mike Johnston held a virtual press conference together calling for more action from the federal government. Adams said, as temperatures drop in New York City, Chicago, and Denver, and other impacted cities, we're calling for the federal declaration of emergency, financial support, and a national resettlement strategy. Our cities have reached a point where we're either close to capacity or nearly out of room without significant intervention from the federal government, he said. This mission will not be sustained. Johnston, meanwhile, said that migrants getting court dates are receiving them as late as 2027. While they cannot work in many cases as they wait for work authorization, he emphasized the need for expedited work permits and also stressed the financial situation Denver is facing. Now, this is part of the problem too, though, with these mayors, and I understand the stress this puts on their city. But rather than asking the federal government and the president for more money to be able to house them and to be able to escalate their approval for work authorization, they need to be demanding that the Biden administration send them back home. They're focused on how do we take care of them rather than returning them from where they came from. The Denver mayor said, we're looking at about $160 million of potential costs going into next year's budget. That's almost 10% of our entire city budget. That's a massive impact on us. The coalition has previously called for an additional $5 billion in help from the federal government. Again, they want the money to help take care of them, to house and feed them, not to return them. Moving on to another subject here. Have you had someone over the Christmas holiday who has been affected by the flu? The flu in South Carolina has hit very hard this holiday season, according to the Department of Health and Environmental Control. Doctors are reacting by asking for the public's help in keeping the sickest people safe. Portions of today's show brought to you by PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Let's talk about emotional eating. I used to be a chocoholic. I'm a recovering chocoholic. I learned not to use it as a crutch to deal with stress. I changed my relationship with chocolate as a result of getting into the PhD weight loss and nutrition lifestyle that Dr. Ashley Lucas taught me over 3 years ago. I'm so thankful that I made that initial phone call 3 years ago and started this program that literally has changed my life. I lost 30 pounds very quickly. I've been able to maintain that weight loss for over 3 years now because of what I learned about my relationship with food. What to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. That's what it's all about. I still eat chocolate, but I eat it in moderation. I know what I can do. I've been able to maintain that 30-pound weight loss for over 3 years now. Let me encourage you to make the call to PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition because it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Call them today. Go ahead and get your appointment set up, and let's kick 2024 off with a good start. 864-252-4925, 864-252-4925. You can also check them out online at myphdweightloss.com, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So Prisma Health Hospital System announced new restrictions on its Columbia area hospitals this week. Prisma hospitals are restricting children under the age of 16 from visiting in order to halt the spread of a very virulent strain of influenza that is sweeping the state, they say. Hospital visitors are also encouraged to wear masks for the time being. The State Department of Health and Environmental Control reported last week through December the 16th that more than 19,000 cases of the flu has been confirmed in South Carolina for the current season. More than 1,100 people have been hospitalized during the current flu season, and 12 people have died so far. Dr. Helmut Albright told reporters at a news conference this past week that South Carolina has seen a surge in influenza A, the most common virus to spring up during the winter months. Hospitals are also seeing a smaller surge in the seasonal influenza B variant, according to Dr. Albright, an infectious disease specialist. While COVID-19 and RSV are not seeing as high a surge right now, they add up to a strain on the hospital resources because so many people are seeking help at the emergency rooms, according to Dr. Albright. He said it's up 20% of patients currently in Prisma Health hospitals have been admitted with the flu. About a fifth to a sixth of the visits are driven by flu-like illnesses, he said. It's a significant burden on our communities. Albright said people can still receive this year's vaccines for flu. He said parents should not bring children into the hospital with flu-like symptoms unless their breathing becomes impaired. He said, quote, if you can keep the dehydration low, if they can take oral food and medicine, and you can manage the fever, cough, and other symptoms, most parents know how to do that. The state reached out to Lexington Medical Center about any similar flu cases in their hospital. The state newspaper did, but had not received a response before their latest publication of the numbers. On the Truth text line, still getting suggestions for who should be Donald Trump's vice president. Al wrote, Joey, I love your podcast. I would love to see our Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett as vice president. Says also, thank you for your Christmas email. Happy New Year to you and your family. May God bless. Thank you, Al. I appreciate that. If you, he's referencing my Christmas message. If you didn't get the email, that means you haven't signed up for our email newsletter yet. Go to joeyhudson.com, click on Connect with Joey, and sign up to be on our email list. Ace writes, Joey, if the Republicans don't take a stand, all Republicans will be lined up like dominoes, with Trump being the first one toppled over. Andy wants Tucker Carlson for vice president. Jeff says, I love the texts of encouragement. Keep them coming. I do too, Andy. I do too. I like the texts of encouragement. And by the way, this is, I get these every day, have been for a long, long time. I don't know who sends them, but I'm just thankful that they do. Our text of encouragement today, a little progress each day adds up to big results. God bless. Your comments are welcome as well on the Truth text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. You can leave me a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Remember how I asked you about how you would feel about having a robot around your workplace or maybe even your home? This was in, I don't remember if it was yesterday's episode or a couple of days, but one day this week, I asked you the question because there was a story that Tesla is developing a personal robot that you could potentially have in your workplace or around your home. Well, there's also a report of a Tesla robot that critically injured a worker in a Tesla factory when it pinned an engineer against a piece of machinery. I'll tell you all about that in just a moment. Portions of today's show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have no appliance knowledge? Whether you're replacing a broken appliance, or maybe you're just upgrading your entire kitchen to a better look and a better feel. When you're ready for your new appliances, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to start using them, do you? Fortunately, when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, there's not going to be that wait. There's not going to be those shipping and supply issues because they have over 1,500 appliances in stock. You can buy it today, use it today in most instances. I'm talking 11,000 square feet slam full of appliances, and with their expert installation, award-winning service department, and extended warranties, Discounted Appliance Warehouse has you covered well after the sale. Let me encourage you to run over, to take the short trip to Pickens and shop with Discounted Appliance Warehouse the next time you need appliances. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, you can find them online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. So the story is a Tesla engineer was reportedly a victim of a bloody attack by a robot at a factory near Austin, Texas. Recent reports revealed that an injury report that claims a robot designed to move aluminum car parts pinned the engineer against a surface and dug its metal claws into his back and his arm, according to witnesses who spoke to a workforce publication called The Information in a story recently published. After another worker hit an emergency stop button, the engineer maneuvered his way out of the robot's grasp, falling a couple of feet down a chute designed to collect scrap aluminum, leaving a trail of blood behind him, one of the witnesses told The Information. The attack reportedly occurred while the engineer was programming software for two disabled Tesla robots nearby. Remember, it's Tesla that I told you is working to develop a personal robot to assist with various jobs, both commercially and around your home. I believe I'll wait for them to maybe do a little more testing before jumping on this bandwagon. What about you? You trust a robot around your home? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Again, if you haven't joined our mailing list already, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Hope you have a wonderful New Year's weekend. I'll be back on Monday as we kick off 2024 with a special New Year's edition of Just the Truth. Until then, keep the emails coming, joey@joeyhudson.com. Send me your comments via the Truth text line, 864-477-JOEY. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Happy New Year to you. Remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.